Hello there and welcome back. It is Sunday night and it is time for another live stream. Sorry I was late. I was just setting something up that I need to demonstrate because I don't know how, but someone has got their wires crossed massively somewhere with regards to a piece of hardware that I reviewed on the channel a few weeks ago. Now, I also need to do something else very quickly as well, so give me 1 second. My camera isn't straight. How have I done that? Let me just adjust that a bit. I can see the side of the monitor, which was annoying me. There we go. The camera's straight now. It wasn't straight. Anyway, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you are all well. Welcome to another Sunday night live stream. Now, please let me know if this is working fine. And the reason I'm asking that this week is because OBS completely flipped out on me halfway through the week. At about 11 o'clock one night, just before I was popping to bed, I was messing around for some stuff, and OBS has just completely flipped out, and it's done something frankly bizarre with my Rodecaster Pro, and that is that it's like the audio levels have trebled in value, and I don't know why. Whereas before, the audio input was all set and fine, and overnight it lost the audio sync, and the inputs are so hot it was ridiculous. I've had to put in like 30 dB of attenuation on the audio just to get the levels back, and I don't know why. Anyway, so I hope you're all safe and well. Tonight, what we're going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about this thing that I reviewed on the channel, and that is the Speedy B Nano 3 adapter. And we're going to do a demonstration because I think someone's got their wires crossed. We're going to talk about the controversy around ImmersionRC this week. It's not really controversy. It's a clickbait title. They stopped including a plastic cover with the modules, but we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about some other stuff as well, including the new update for HDZero goggles and a few other things as well. Now, as always, tonight probably more than ever is going to be more of a Q&A live stream. I can see the live chat. I've got it up over there. So if you've got any questions, please do let me know. I will answer them as I go through. If you want your question to definitely be seen, I'm going to play a card out of Mr. JB's world here because I've stolen his words. You can consider doing it as a super chat. It doesn't need to be a super chat. It just gets it noticed elsewhere. But if you don't worry. I will try and answer questions as we move along. Now, I want to talk first of all about this Speedy B Nano 3. Now, I'm going to go to the overhead a second, which is this little device here. Now, if you don't know what it is, it's basically an MSP dongle that connects to the Speedy B app and allows you to configure your Betaflight flight controller. So you can see here we have Betaflight, we have that MSP adapter, and we've got my receiver, which is Express ELRS. So what this adapter does, it allows you to configure your flight controller via MSP with the Speedy B app. Nice and simple, nice and straightforward, okay? Nothing dramatic here. Now, what I'm going to do first of all is a demonstration. What we're going to do is plug this flight controller into Betaflight. Let me find the right button first of all. We're going to plug it into Betaflight. And I want to show you the configuration because someone is arguing with me on my review on this that I'm talking nonsense. So, all I've done is plugged it into USB. Okay? Let me find Betaflight. Put it up on the screen so you guys can see the desktop as well. There we go. Boom. We've got Betaflight, flight controller connected. Now, I'm just going to show you the ports tab. Okay? This thing, I think, is on UR. Which UR is this on? 4, I guess. Let me just look under the microscope because I can't read those ports. Let me just disconnect and make sure I've got this right. No. On R1. Sorry, this one is on R1. Okay? So we'll let it reconnect just so I know it's right. So, this is on UART1. You can see MSP for UART1 is turned on. Okay? MSP for UART4 is turned on because that's where my receiver is. And USB VCP, MSP is grayed out because I'm connected to it via the flight controller. So that is the configuration. Everything is normal. Right. What we're now going to do is unplug the USB and we're going to simply plug a battery into it. Now, this is a test flight controller I have on the bench. We're going to open up the Speedy B app, which you can see there. And then, let me just zoom that out a little bit so you guys can see the whole thing. There we go. Ignore the spotlight on the screen. I'm going to click search. It should find it, which it has. Click connect. Give it a second. It's very close, so it could play up, actually. But there we go. Look, all connected. All working fine, showing up on the screen. Oh, that's me flinging it about on the table. Now, the accusation is, right, that if this module gets broken or disconnected, you will never be able to reconnect on MSP USB. Now, this is complete nonsense. And I've tried to explain that this is complete nonsense, but the person is saying that if this gets damaged or disconnected whilst it's connected, you will never be able to reconnect to the USB because you've disconnected it. So, what we're going to do is cut the power wire whilst it's connected. All right, so here we go. We're going to cut BAT plus. There it is. You can see flight controller's connected. I'm going to snip. There we go. So that has now disconnected. Okay. I'm going to now come back to this so you can see it. I've done nothing until that. I'm now going to unplug the flight controller, take my USB, find the right side, plug it in, go to the desktop, and we're reconnected. Absolutely fine. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is wrong. It does not matter what you do with this device. It has no effect on the USB. Now, the confusion seems to be that you're disabling the USB port, but you're not disabling the USB port. At no point in the configuration for this are you disabling the USB port. This device is entirely separate from USB. It does not do anything. If you're turning off the USB, that's something different. That is it. It's fine. This device has no effect on that. I don't understand where this is coming from. It's madness. I don't get it. Now, the only reason I've done this live on here, because this I've removed a post of his because it went on and he put like a big warning on that this device shouldn't be bought and all this. I was like, no, I'm not having that. That's nonsense. But I've left his other posts up there because, and I'm not being negative against the person. I have nothing against the person, but I don't understand where you're coming from on this. Okay? This device has no effect on your USB connection at all. You do not turn off the USB. You do not need to turn off the USB. If you were to turn off the USB, you're going to have problems. But you could still flash it in bootloader mode or DFU mode. You will never brick a flight controller. You can flash it with the Cube programmer if you have to. And what I mean by the Cube is the STM32 Cube programmer, for those who haven't seen it. There is nothing short of shorting this out that means you can't recover it. There is no Betaflight controller that you can brick permanently via a firmware update or turning off USB. You can always recover. That's what the boot pad is for. You will always enter USB. If you turned off that USB mode, yes, you would lose the configuration there. But that's if you turn that off. So, the Bluetooth Nano 3, I've now got to resolder that wire back together, look. But the Bluetooth Nano 3 is fine. There's no issues with it. Using wireless Bluetooth adapters has no effect at all. It's that simple. Right. Thank you. What's up, FPV? That's amazing. Thank you for the super chat. That's incredible. I really do appreciate it. Now, I'm just going to catch up on the chat and calm myself down. This was one of those ones where I'm like screaming at the internet going, no, that is not how it works. And the worst thing is, the person genuinely seems to have talked himself into this position, and I don't know how. Because he's putting like quite long explanations in of the problem, and I'm like, no, I've not turned off the USB. I've not done it. I've not done it. I don't even do it in the video. I don't even see what he's seeing in the video and said I turned off the USB. No, I didn't turn off the USB. It's just crazy. Nowhere in the video did I turn off the USB. It was grayed out because I was connected to USB, but I didn't turn the USB off. So, anyway, that ends that. No problem at all, TK. So, okay, that ends that thing. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is the controversy from ImmersionRC that they are ripping people off. I'm going to get myself into trouble with Tony here. That ImmersionRC are ripping people off by no longer including plastic covers with the Rapidfire module. You can tell it's a slow news week, can't you? But yes, there is controversy over this, and that is that someone received a new module and they're no longer including the cover, and it's a version 2 module, they're saying, or batch 2. And the very simple answer is ImmersionRC have changed their production slightly and they didn't include the covers. It's a mistake. They've only been shipped to Pyrodrone without the covers. They're shipping covers to Pyrodrone. If you want one, they will send you one. Now, I actually think it's a good thing that they're not necessarily including covers with every one, because many people will be using a different cover anyway. Many people will be using the covers they've already got. If you're buying the Orca goggles, it'll have a cover for Rapidfire anyway. So I do get the idea of not shipping a cover unless you want it. It does really need to include one, just like the Thing one does. But yeah, Tony has put a post on there. And Tony's post is, guys, the cover was a miscommunication internally, which resulted in the covers not being offered to retailers. They realised that most of the covers end up in landfill, especially the Attitude cover, and the vast majority of users don't use it. With Orca shipping the goggles with the covers included, they decided to split out. So, look, they're going to be available. They're going to include them. They're not charging you any more for them. But I thought I'd turn it into a bit of controversy. There was a bit of noise over it, but I did find it mildly amusing. Just looking at it, that's all. But it's a great outcome. But what's interesting now is this module is now manufactured in the EU, which is good. You know, these aren't cheap, these modules these days. I don't even know if you can get them in the UK right now. The last time I tried to find one, I still need an analog module. I'm borrowing Peppermint's. Peppermint, I need to ship it back to you, actually, my friend. I'll do that this week. I've got Peppermint's TBS module, which I've been using on the HDZeros. But yeah, they are available now. You can also get the RF power meter again from them as well. That is now available all through Orca as well. But yeah, it seems it's just a shipment went out without them. That's all it was. So it's not end of the world. It's not a major problem. Yeah, he is amazing, Peppermint. He is absolutely a legend. He really, really is. Now, what I actually find really exciting about this is that there's something to talk about from ImmersionRC and Orca. There really hasn't been a lot to talk about from the guys over there for a while, you know. And look, I'm probably not their most popular person. I wasn't particularly kind about the FPV-1 pilots. I don't think they're a great... I like the goggle, but I think there's a lot that could be better. I tell you what I'd love to do with the FPV pilots. I'd love to have them go, right, tell us what you want to change and improve. And I'd love to... So many little things you could improve on those goggles. The buttons, because they're not high enough. What's good is the likes of Tweet FPV does the skins and stuff. Does Tweet have the skins for the Orca pilots? I'm guessing he does, the grippy skins. I don't know what his store is. Let me just find it. He's got his grips, which are really good. And if you didn't see Tweet, he did an internal antenna mod today for the Boxer on his live stream. It's going to be super interesting to see how it goes. But if you haven't seen, Tweet has got his website. Does he do the grips for the Orca goggles? Yes, he does. Of course he does. The man's a legend. That's why. Now this, you know, they needed to raise these buttons up. Can I get his website to play ball? Is the next question. Tweet, your website's not working for me. Why? Shop. Have I just crashed Tweet's website? Or I've crashed the browser. Should we try it again? Have I lost the internet? Am I still on? Oh, yeah, we're definitely online. So we might have crashed Tweet's website. Just checking. It's kicked in now. Here we go. So he's got his Orca products. I think it's just a little slow. That's all it is. But he's got his Orca grips and stuff like that. But yeah, there was some real interesting little things on the Orcas that could be improved. I would like to see them. I would love to have tried the Orca FPV ones, not the one pilots. I think the ones would have been fantastic for me. But I'll be honest, I think there's some horrible decisions on the one pilots and the ones somewhat. I don't like... Ooh, we're getting close. I'm getting closer to be able to click on it. I don't like the buttons. They're too flat to the surface. You can't feel them. The placement of the HDMI connector is frankly horrible. I don't think it's great. The placement of the SD card slot is okay, but it's not great. I think I'd have liked a larger field of view on those goggles. The optics I find aren't great for me. I'm not saying they're bad goggles because they're very high end. What I really liked was the menu system and some of that stuff. However, HDZero is just as good now. So why wouldn't you choose them? Secret HD system, Byron? No, it's not. Evening, Carl. How are you? Walksnail OSD freezing. Any idea why? Right, it'll start to freeze on low signal. We'll come on to that in a second. Let me finish the Orca talk and we'll come on to that. 120 or 144 screens hertz for Orca would be nice. 100 hertz, yeah. You're probably not going to see 120. You got to remember, the OLEDs all pretty much top out at 100 hertz, including the Skies, including the DJIs. There's a reason the DJI reduced the screen, the latency, increased the latency, reduced the refresh rate to 100 hertz, 100 frames a second on O3, because OLEDs are basically topping out at 100. NZPMFPV. Just got my Skies on O4Xs and I'm getting slightly blued edges. What could be the cause? Could be my... Okay, anti-stigmatism be the problem. Middle of the screens are really clear. I find the O4Xs clear end to end. But look, goggle optics are different for each person. There will always be differences, what suits me, what suits you. I find the DJIs, frankly, horrific, yet people find the new goggles too fantastic. Not everyone. I think it's fair to say most people find the DJI goggles too pretty bad optically. But there are some subsets of people that find them fantastic. And the flip side will be the same for, say, the Skies on O4Xs. Whereas I find them fantastic, there will be some people that don't. And that's the issue. So we're just going to have to see. I'm just going to check something. No, I just wanted to make sure I was on the right microphone. No biscuits tonight, Cliff? No. Actually, I have. They're behind me. They're chocolate. Yeah, the goggles too actually need to come closer to my eyes as well. Interestingly, and I did find it quite amusing, the great Patrick from iFlight's been talking about it on Facebook this week, and I put a post on the last night. I replied to him just saying, yeah, they're pretty bad, and they are. I've got one of the accessory foams for the DJI goggles too, this one. And it was no different for me overhead, this one. I didn't find this any different for me at all. For me, they definitely need to be closer. This one here, it's no better. No better at all. So it's not been fitted. Hi, G. Joan. How are you? So, yeah, I got this one, but yeah, it pushes them further away, not closer. I need the goggles too to be closer to my eyes. To be able to get them clear, they need to be closer. It needs a whole new face mask. But really, it needs a complete redesigned face mask with the nose section cut out. That's what it really needs. Now, back to Riz's question on the Avatar Walksnail system with the OSD freezing. Right, this could be a number of things. It could be your flight controller. it depends what flight controller you've got. Is your flight controller able? Is it coping? Is it okay? You should check the status of Betaflight. How much resources is available in Betaflight? You can do this, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head how to do this. Is it status? I'm trying to remember. 2 seconds. We'll plug in. We need to just, you can check what your load is in Betaflight. Let me just get Betaflight open. Let me just find it. There it is. CPU utilization, yeah. Desktop. There we go. I can't exactly remember the command. I'll find it now. It's not load, is it? No, it's not load. You're on Ardra Pilot. Right, okay. That explains a lot. Right. And let's go to that one. Right, on Ardra Pilot, it'll be probably due. Check your port settings. Make sure the baud rate is set correctly. Remember, in Ardra Pilot, you're basically using a mode that is sort of adapted to work with it. So, you want to, the update rate can be slow, but you also might want to try something like turning, it's either on or off. I can't remember which way it is at the moment, but there's a feature called, what is it? Hardware flow control. I had to think of it off the top of my head. There's a feature in Ardra Pilot called hardware flow control. You may need to check that. I would post it on the Ardra Pilot forum or on the Ardra Pilot Discord and feed back to them. I don't think that will be there will be that many people running it, and as such, you may have found a problem that they don't know about. I haven't extensively tried Avatar with Ardra Pilot. So my suggestion would be posting it on the Ardra Pilot Discord or Discord server and having a chat with the team and seeing what they say, because it could be a bug. It could very well be a bug. I just got the goggles 2 last week, and I was disappointed as well, but totally adjusted them again one eyeball at a time, locked adjustment knob, and all good now. Yeah, they take a bit of getting right. Look, I can't get the goggles 2 end-to-end clear. I just can't. It's not possible for me. Are they absolutely okay? Yes, because the reality is, when I'm flying, your tunnel vision is on that center area of the screen. The areas at the sides are not areas that I'm paying a huge amount of attention to. So, when you are looking at a static image on the bench, when looking at goggles, it's very easy to go, oh, they're bad, oh, they're good. However, in flight, the question is, does it affect you? And I would predominantly say no. It doesn't look great, though, when you're looking at OSD elements at the sides, and it's probably going to get a lot worse when we get HD OSD for the DJI system. It's probably going to get worse then, because people are going to start being able to put elements at the sides. At the moment, the only elements that you actually have at the sides in the goggles too are the DJI own elements, and how much attention people pay to them, 100%, I don't know. However, when we have the HD OSD feature, which is going to offer full 16:9 OSD, smaller blocks, that's going to cause some problems. That's probably when we're going to see people start to have issues. Now, there is obviously always the option of keeping the icons in the middle. If you wanted to, you can do that. It isn't absolutely necessary, but you can do it if you need to. That's one of the options you can do as well. But yeah, DJI goggles 2 are not really good. And actually, this subject leads me on nicely to this, which we're going to do on the stream as well now. And we're going today to set up a Vista, but the process is exactly the same for O3 on Betaflight 4.4. And the reason I'm going to do this, because I want to show you how easy this is now, because I get a lot of questions on the channel, and I'm probably going to cut this as a live stream clip, of just people having problems. Now, this is today easier than it has ever been before. Setting up DJI on an A unit or Vista O3 with a flight controller. Now, obviously, we're going to need to use Betaflight. And what I'm going to do, first of all, is I'm just going to reflash this flight controller so it's completely blank. So I'm going to reopen Betaflight. And I'm just going to flash this. We're going to want release. We want the H7 version 2, which this one is. And what we want to do is load and flash the firmware on this flight controller. Always plays up. So we're going to just put it in bootloader mode and start from scratch, because I want to just get this ready to show how easy this is now. Because it don't get easier than it is today. I'll be honest with you. It really doesn't get easier than it is today. And I know I don't make a lot of Betaflight content on this channel, and I have no intention of trying to compete with the great Mr. Bardwell. But there are things that overlap that I do want to discuss. Let me just grab my goggles too. I'm also just looking for another cable as well, I am. I'm just looking for my adapter so I can put my phone on it as well. I know where it is. It's in this bag over here. Okay. And we're going to want a lightning cable. And I want to show this because there are people who are still struggling with this today, and they shouldn't be. Any tip how to debug HDZero VTX 90? I have no image, but MSP VTX works. The connection in Betaflight tab works. The LED shows. I can switch PID from PID mode to power, but no image in the goggles. Right, if you've got no image in the goggles, is it picking up a signal on the goggles properly and locking onto the channel? If it isn't, it's probably a camera connection. Okay, that flashed. There we go. So we'll come on and do this in a minute. Almac FPV, hello, how are you? Welcome to the stream. Walksnail advertised 21 milliseconds, but every test shows 41 plus. 41 plus, and best with Walksnail goggles, 34 to 35 milliseconds. I mean, I could see 3 to 5, but 15 to 20, that's huge. Yeah, look, avatar latency is complicated, as is DJI latency. The tests done, and Chris Ross's are the ones I would recommend you look at. And the reason I'm not saying JB's, for instance, because JB's testing at 240 frames a second. Okay? which means it's every 4 frames, and 4 frames is too much of a gap to really have it correct. Whereas Chris Rosser is measuring at 960 frames, I think it is off the top of my head, his camera will do. And I have been looking at getting 1000 hertz frames a second camera. There is pretty much only one on the market available today that is reasonably priced, and it isn't a dedicated 1000 frames camera. There is a point and shoot that's been made by a camera manufacturer that does 1000 frames a second, and I am probably going to get one. But I'll be honest, it's been Chris Ross's bag. I don't really know what else I can bring to the table on this. But Chris Ross's numbers are the ones I would go to. His is the one I would take. And if he's showing it higher, then he's showing it higher. But you got to take into account, most people flying Avatar on low latency are absolutely fine. Look, latency is a complicated subject, and I'll get knocked about by the HDZero crew for this. Frankly, for most people, I'll say it again, it doesn't matter. Most pilots cannot detect the difference between 30 and 50 milliseconds. Amazing pilots can. Bot can. JB can. I can feel it. I'm not an amazing pilot. I'm not saying it that, but I can feel it if I look for it. Racing pilots will feel it. But people flying quads around fields, people flying most normal bandos, people not at the top end level are not going to notice it. I was surprised how little I noticed the latency difference on the Avatar VRX module. It's not enough to make a difference. And I still feel it adapts. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I still feel people adapt to latency. I don't think it's the be-all and end-all. I genuinely don't think it's the be-all and end-all. And people get way too bent out of shape. Try a system. If it works for you, go for it. That's what I would say. Okay. Right. Let me just go back up to a couple of things. Hello, Tweet. How are you? We were taught. I've got your website up here, Tweet. I might have damaged your server just now. I've lost it. Where is it? I've got your website up. We were looking at these for the Orcas. I was talking about the Orcas, and we were looking at Tweet FPV's website for his amazing, and they are amazing, his amazing grips. The ones for the Mambo look absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. They really do. And the man has a new set of grips. If I click on the shop when his website wakes up, and we might have been giving the server a hammering, he's got a set now for the Boxer as well. I'm not saying everyone can't feel latency. But what I'm saying is, I don't think it affects people as much as half the people think it does. Some people can feel it a lot. Some people can feel it different. Some people have it has a dramatic effect. Some people don't. On average, just look. Here's my real simple baseline, right? Here's the controversial. I saw it live, my friend. There was a period where you couldn't get low latency cameras for DJI at all. You could only get 60 frames a second cameras. Yes, some people complained. Yes, people weren't happy, but the majority of people just got on with it and flew. If you're flying very fast around gates, you will see it. Of course you will. However, the majority of pilots are not bando bashing, are not the most technical people in the world. I bet if you lined up, and look, this is where it all gets interesting. when you start lining up people with blind tests, things get super, super interesting. Super, super interesting. It's all to do with how you fly. It's all to do with where you fly. It's all to do with how you get used to it. If you're flying HDZero and then put on avatar on high latency mode, you're gonna feel it instantly because you've been used to that. But what you've got to get used to is what you fly with a lot will determine what you're used to. And that's what comes down to it. It's no good jumping from the lowest latency system instantly to the highest latency and saying that's terrible, because you're going to feel it. That's like hopping out of an F1 car into a Ford Focus and complaining it's slow. You've got to get used to it. You've got to adapt to it. And what I'm saying is people can adapt if they try. I don't think it's the be-all, end-all. Just based on experience, just based on the feedback, and just watching the thing for a very long time. You know, it's noticeable, but does it affect you if you adapt to it? That's the question. I just seen a question on the HDZero goggles. I just want to see that one a second. Could you please stop calling the Betaflight configurator Betaflight? Betaflight is the name of the firmware. FC, it drives me nuts. No, it's all Betaflight as far as I'm concerned. Yes, one's the firmware. Yes, one's the configurator. They're both part of the same thing. The configurator can't be used on any other software. It's all part of Betaflight. For instance, I would not call Mission Planner ArduPilot because Mission Planner works with both Mission ArduPilot and PX4 because it's MAVLink based. However, Betaflight is Betaflight. It's their configurator. It's the firmware. It makes no difference. It's all bloody Betaflight. I'm sorry, but it's Betaflight. Shit happens. Get over it. Quadfather, hi man. I just got my HDZero goggles and I've had a bad signal on one of the antennas at the box. Try different antennas and a bad signal could be the other three. Is it normal? It can be. When you're saying bad, are you saying it is reading lower, Quadfather? It's not that it's not reading at all. It just doesn't seem to align with the others. Is that what you're saying? I just want to, if it's showing lower, it's dark, no green bars. Ooh. What, on the bench where you're seeing full bars on the other? If that's the case, I would be speaking to them. Okay, it would be what I class as normal a minute because there is a lot of conversation around this because people are seeing varying differences. So what I would say is normal is if you're saying 2 with full 5 bars, I think it is, and 2 with 4/3, or 1 with sort of 1 or 1 to 2 bars down. But if you're seeing 0, whereas the others are full, something is wrong. That would be my opinion, and I would speak to them. That's what I would do. If you're getting no bars at all. Good evening, Apache Smoke. So, what we're going to do now is do a live setup of the DJI O3 system on a Vista to just show how easy it is. Because there's been a lot of people struggling with this, and I'm just going to turn on my goggles. And I don't quite understand why. So, let me just get ready. Let me get everything in place. Trying to find places to put stuff a minute just to demo how easy this is. Let's get the battery to turn on. We're going to get a cable in place. Goggles are turning on. 1 or 2 bars, they're working on firmware, but if it's fundamentally like no bars versus... There are a few of us, I think I was one of the first to actually have it. But I also had other issues with my goggles, unfortunately. But that's a whole other story. Okay, so let me just put these in air unit mode. Because they weren't. Okay, so let me get myself ready. I'm going to need a battery as well. I also need to check what UART it is. I can't remember. I've forgotten the UART. I've forgotten which UART it's connected to. Let's just go products, FPV flight controllers, H7 version 2. I forgot the UART that the VTX is on. 1. Okay, number 1. Forgot. Okay, so what we're going to do is a quick live demo of setting up a DJI Vista on Betaflight 4.4 on the O3 firmware. So this is the newer firmware with the DJI goggles too. Now this setup is going to be the same for O3. It's going to be the same for the Air unit or the Vista. This is for MSP DisplayPort OSD. Now, if we go overhead a second, you can see we've got our flight controller connected to the Air unit, camera. This is just a test one. We've got a power connector just so I can power it up, and we've got a receiver there as well. Now, I have reflashed this flight controller from scratch in Betaflight. If I power this all up a second and check that it all does connect to my goggles, we'll do that first of all. There we go. Let's see if the app connects as well. So let's do this. Wait a second. Let's see if it all kicks in. There we go. It's kicked in on this side. What I don't know is, does the app work on this side of it? It's been a while, actually. I can't remember. Does the app actually work? Yes, it does. There we go. So, you can see. There we are. We're showing on the screen, but there's no MSP DisplayPort OSD. It's not working at all, but we've got it all connected up. Now, the configuration for this is easier than it's ever been with Betaflight 4.4 and the presets. So what we're going to do is plug in the USB. We're going to go back to the desktop, and we're going to find Betaflight Configurator. We'll go to there. We'll connect. We'll apply the custom defaults because custom defaults weren't applied just now. The flight controller. Boom, 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 boom. And we're in, and if I move it around, you can see it's connected. Now, there is no need to mess around in this at all with lots of settings. You don't need to go into the ports tab. You don't need to mess around with any of this, right? The quickest way to do this is as follows. Just go into expert mode, go into presets, search for VTX. And what you're looking for is this one here, OSD for FPV.WTF Avatar HD. Okay? This is the only one you need to use. That's all you need to use. We go in and select the options. Use DisplayPort on UART 1 because we are using this on UART 1. We're going to click pick, save and reboot. And that is it. That is literally all you should have to do. Now, all I'm going to do now is just go down into OSD and see what elements are turned on because there probably isn't a lot. Let's turn on battery voltage. Let's turn on battery average cell voltage. Click save. And if I now come back to the overhead, it's working. That's it. It's all there instantly. All you need to do is use that preset in Betaflight. You do not need to do anything else. Now, that is the same for Avatar HD. You can actually do that with HDZero as well, but there's a dedicated preset for HDZero, O3, Vista, Air Unit on the O3 firmware. The setup is that simple. It really, really is. Now, you can go in and check if you need to that your OSD profile is set correctly. You should probably fix it to PAL instead of using auto. At the moment, you can't use HD because HD isn't available on the DJI system. But it is that simple. That is literally all you need to do to get it to work. It really is that easy. Now, I know there's been a lot of people having problems with this. And let me just unplug the power. I'm going to, if there's any questions. But that is all you should need to do. That is all you should need to do to get the DJI OSD working. It literally is that simple. It is so easy today. It's crazy. And the real great thing in Betaflight, let me just unplug these a second. The real great thing now is that you have all of the presets for the other systems if you want them. So if we do go back in to Betaflight, plug the USB back in, go to the desktop view, go there. If we do go down to the presets, we can search for HDZero, and there's a HDZero preset by Sugar K. There's a preset for the avatar, which is this one here, which is the OSD for FPV. And is someone created one for DJI? DJI Normal, which is the RC Link, and one for S-Bus Fast as well. If you're wanting to set that up too. It's just that simple. It really, really is that simple. There's just no great issue here. It's crazy. It's crazy how many people seem to still be having problems with it. But it is that easy to set up. And if you want to set it up, just do that. Now, just to catch up on the chat. No JB tonight. No, I didn't think there was a JB streaming tonight. I haven't heard much from JB recently. I hope he's all right. I haven't had a chance to watch much else, if I'm honest. Just to quickly catch up on the super chat. Markel off Axis FPV, $3 Canadian. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it. Barton Bink, $5. Thank you, my friend. That's fantastic. That is amazing. Never over tighten your nuts, Cool Cat says. AV Physics. It is vertically to the RF board. Let's just have a look. Yeah, if they're brand new goggles, though, I would be sending them back. Giant Ant Cowboy. That would be a different issue. Signal showing reduced bars is not the same as no input. But you would have to have dropped them. If they'll be using a jig to ensure the SMA is correctly soldered. Look, the SMA is not... Okay, I'll talk a bit about this. Okay, so I have a problem with my HDZero goggles, which I may have caused. I'm open to that fact. I need to get back to Carl, actually. Mine are now working fine. We have a new set of boards. Let me just grab something. We want to be in there. Let me just get this focused properly on the overhead as well. There we go. Okay, so I had a problem with my HDZero goggles after my teardown. We don't fully understand why still, but I did. The SMAs coming loose is something that is happening to some people after they knock them. Okay? If you get a brand new set of goggles where you've got one bar that's not reading signal, that is not a broken SMA unless it's been dropped at the factory, which isn't going to happen. So, if you've got a brand new set of goggles and the image is fine, but the bars aren't quite all showing the same, then you should be okay. Image is working, bars aren't quite showing the same. There seems to be something new in that wasn't there originally. For instance, before my goggles went completely nuts, the bars were all perfect on day one, but then over time it seemed, or at a complete switch moment, the left-hand side did not respond the same as the right, but it worked. And actually, RF testing sort of showed it was as sensitive. Okay? However, there is a second issue where people are having their SMAs come loose, normally due to a droppage. I haven't seen one of these just come loose. And I'll be honest, I find it really hard to believe that these SMAs are just going to come loose as well. And I'll show you why, because I have one in hand here. Here is the RF board from the HDZero goggles. This is the main RF board with the two SMAs, so you can see the front ones go through. They're going to be solid. You're going to have to literally hit that with a sledgehammer. However, the top one is also solid in the sense of it's double soldered. So if we hop over to the microscope a minute, let me move all of this stuff, and I'll show you this closely. Moving my mic. Okay. If we just get this where I need to get it so you guys can see it. Okay, so what we've got here is the one side of the SMA on the HDZero goggles. You can see you've got the center pin that runs up the middle. Let me find my tweezers. You've got the center pin that runs up here, and then you've got your two pins on either side. Now, just to flip this over a second, there are also two pins on the rear as well. So the board is sandwiched between pins on either side. Now, the actual issue that some people have, and if we zoom in down to here, right into here, the actual issue that some people have is that they knock this connector and it breaks free, and it rips this track here. It lifts the pad off the board and rips this track up. Okay? As a result of this connector coming loose. But this can only happen if this connector comes loose. Now, there are two scenarios to this. You're either going to rip the pads from the board here and here on either side. Okay? Or it's going to break free from that solder. Now, this is lead solder. It's fairly soft. You know, look, just to show you how soft it is, you know, I can push the tweezers in, okay? Because it's lead-free. I should say it's not lead, it's lead-free solder. So it's fairly soft. So the connector could be moved. That could happen. But that issue is that people break the track, and you normally get a break about here somewhere. But that can only happen if you are to knock this SMA. This ain't going to happen naturally. I don't see a world where this can happen normally. I just don't. Unless the PCB is weak and the copper is lifting off the surface, which I don't think it is, it's only really going to happen with a outside intervention is the term to use. Okay, let me just come back around. Now, the spacers, as AV is saying, should help. Look, I have a personal preference, and my advice on one side when they were first attached, that's interesting. Look, my personal advice would be, I think Carl should move to pigtails. I know he doesn't want to for signal loss, but I think I would move to pigtails and internal connections just to make this go away, like all of the other goggles. And look, on that front, on those top ports, probably go to pigtails, and on the front ports, leave them on the boards. That might be a solution. That, I think, if we look at other goggles out there, the Scouts do that. The Scouts have pigtails on 2 of them and board fixed on the other 2. I think it's clear people are managing to break them somehow. I'm shocked how many we've had break, I'll be honest. I am surprised just how many have broke. And I don't think that's a reflection of the quality of the goggle. I'm just surprised how many people seem to be knocking them. Could they put a nut on both sides? Yeah, that's really what they're going to do with the spacer they're adding in. So the spacer is going to allow the bolt to come down hard. But I don't know. I'm tempted to say, someone says pigtail's going to add another 3 dB loss. In theory, 3 dB. In theory. Again, there's lots of things with pigtails on and we don't get problems. Can you get the board separate from the goggles? HDZero will be able to provide a replacement board. If you were to damage it, reach out to them. 13FPV says, be careful with your stuff. Yeah, you know, being able to leave the antennas on comes with a responsibility. Look, that's a reality. I was just surprised how many I've seen. And I've seen some horrific ones. There was one on Facebook I saw. Let me see if I can find the image. My God, how he did this, I don't know. How he did this, I don't know. It was on the HDZero group. Not only did he rip the connection off, sorry, that's the wrong one. Not only did he rip the connector off the board, but it mangled badly as well. I did chuckle when I saw it because I was like, how did you even do that? How did you even do that? Let me see if I can find the images. Recent media. It was pretty horrific. And I was like, that is like mangled. They've got to be here somewhere. Here it is. And I don't, there we go. So this was the gentleman's post. So he'd managed to rip the tracks from the board. So if I zoom in, you guys can see it. And I honestly don't know how he did this. I honestly, genuinely don't know how he did that. I don't mean to laugh to be nasty, but Jesus. He took the goggles apart and was like, yeah, I have a problem. And I was like, wow. Wow, that's like bad. Right there. Yeah, look, just look there. That's like, yeah, it's pretty horrific. Yeah, so there you go. And I thought I'd share it with you because I was like, and talked it right off. I did the same thing, was testing out 3D printed SMA protectors and talked it right off. Wow. Yeah, it was like, I was like, wow, that's a bad one. But we have got more, you know, this gentleman up here is posted, I think it was today I saw this one. This gentleman's had broke there. So his had broke right there. So it is happening. He managed, I don't know, because The connector didn't look too bad on this one. It doesn't look like there's been much stress around the sides. I was just looking at it and it fell off. You know, I have a reputation. But yeah, you know, but he's fixed it now. Look, and look, it's fairly straightforward to put right if you've done that much damage. Don't get me wrong. If you've done that much damage, I'm sorry, you're going to need a board. Okay. Is it repairable? Yes. Is it just no? That's the thing. And look, Carl is supporting people with this. I won't say this is a HDZero issue for 1 minute. I don't believe. I can't even say they're weak. Genuinely, I can't say they're weak. I am open to the fact in the past that some of the HDZero VTX boards have been fragile, but I see nothing here that's an issue on this design. I've looked and it's fine. Just stop dropping your goggles is the term I'm going to use. And that's sort of where I'm leaning on when I'm saying things like a pigtail. I think it would be an issue. Now, I haven't really spoke about this on here yet, but my HDZero goggles broke, and we don't know why. And there is a very real possibility that I broke them. After the teardown, my goggles started acting weirdly, and I started to get issues with the left-hand side boards. Now, I spent some time looking at it and diagnosing it with Carl, and we started going over some stuff, and it predominantly got worse and worse to the point where Carl's ended up sending me 2 boards, the left run of the boards, and I had to end up replacing both of them because it wouldn't work with either one on its own to get it working, and it's fine, and these boards are going to go off to Carl. Now, I need Carl to have a look at these to try and understand where the issue is, because we can't see anything wrong on these boards. We know what is wrong. We know that the issue is with the I2C bus. What we don't know is why. And that's the part that needs more diagnosis. Now, I did go over a few things on this board because I thought we actually had a broken connector as a result of me pulling the boards in and out. And I have redone the connections in a few places just to make sure everything was perfect, to make sure that there wasn't a problem. But and I've triple checked everything. There's no shorts. There's nothing. It's just not right. It's just not right. So Carl has ended up replacing the boards. But what I can't say is my issue was caused by... It happened after the teardown. I do own a hot air station. I've checked everything. We're trying to understand why it's failing. That's the bit we're trying to understand. There's an I2C bus which communicates on the HDZero goggles, and I can actually show you this because this is actually quite good info. So if we go to repair.wiki, because I've already uploaded some info on this already, and under repair.wiki and drones, over time, no relation to the issue. I do own a hot air gun, yes. There's now a section for the HDZero goggles, and I've uploaded all of the image of the PCBs. So these are all up here now, ready for people if they need it. The board is perfect. There's no damage. There's nothing. We just don't understand why it started to play up. We're just trying to understand it. There's not a single component missing off the board. There's not a single piece of damage. These boards are actually the boards that are playing up, because they were the ones on the images were taken from. But what's quite interesting is when you start to understand how the HDZero goggles work, the only thing... Interesting comment, Sully. I did wonder if somehow something got ESD'd. If something got ESD'd. That's the only thing I can think of. But we started doing a lot of testing. And for instance, when you look at the HDZero goggles on each side, there's some interesting things you can spot. So if we head over to here, there's actually an I2C bus on this side over here. So if we, which way around is this board? That's the right way. We should see, where's it hiding from me? The 2 I2C ports. Where'd they gone? They were there just now. Where have they gone? There. Right, this side, sorry. It's flipped it round as I've zoomed in. So you got SCL and SDA. Now this goes through the connector, obviously. Then that goes into, and let's just go to the other board images. Is this the left or the right? Which one are you? That's the left. That goes onto this board here. It communicates with this, the HDMI transceiver chipset, the transmitter chipset. You can see SDA, SCL here. We've got an I2C bus here as well. It's the same I2C bus that goes between. It also then communicates with the DJI Math chipset as well. And something is failing on that I2C bus and dragging it down. I actually ended up putting it on the oscilloscope and diagnosing the I2C bus on the oscilloscope to try and figure out where the issue was. For instance, where's the images for that? I should have them somewhere. We ended up putting it on the oscilloscope, and there's something definitely wrong on the I2C bus. What we don't know, though, is what is dragging it down. And that's the problem. But I've done a huge amount of testing back and forth with Carl, and we just don't know. The boards are perfect. We just don't know why it started to fail. And it could just be Sod's Law. That's the issue. That's the issue. But the boards are pristine. The boards are absolutely pristine. At first, I thought that perhaps something fell off or something. But if anyone does need close-up images of the goggles, they are available here. The internal boards are all listed. The RF boards, everything is showing here as well. I've got more stuff to add on here as well. And there's even info down here on some of the repairs, including what to check for with no signal. I'm also going to put some more stuff on here as well in the near future too. But all of the info for the PCBs is all available on repair.wiki now as well. And they're going to be adding to that over time too. But yes, but mine are now fixed. They're now working absolutely perfectly again. Now, as I've said, there is a couple of common issues. So we're seeing this SMA thing, and we're seeing this signal bar issue as well. What we don't know is what, and I do know Bot's having a signal bar issue because I was talking to him about it on the HDZero forum. But we just don't know. We just don't know what the cause of mine was. It's just weird, 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 weird. Very, very strange indeed. And it's a strange fault as well. And it was intermittent because the I2C bus started to fail. So it wasn't that it was working all of the time. So for instance, when we started looking at the temperature checks on the goggles, there's actually some test scripts you can use to check the internal components of the goggles. And when we started looking at them, so for instance, let me just find one. I'll show you guys this. There's a test script which allows you to look at the components of the goggles and have a look at if everyone is working as it should be. Let me just find one of the files as a demo to show you. Just so you can see how it looks when it does it. No, not that one. I'm just trying to find one. Where's it gone? I'll try this one here. This should be it. Here we are. So what you can see here is an actual output from the goggles, which is a test output. And where mine was failing was here on this here. You can see there's an error on the left-hand board, which is on the I2C bus. on a communication error on the I2C bus. And that gave us a hint of starting to where to look. Originally, I thought it was a connector issue, but it turns out not to be a connector issue. It turned out to be something else. Yeah, so we started to dig in deeper from there, really. Interestingly, you can see at the moment that the DM6302 here was showing. Interestingly, so the 6302 left was showing correct, but the ITL 66021 was not. I'm actually wondering, and part of me wonders if that's the chipset that's failed, if it's the HDMI transmitter. I'm actually wondering if it is that bad boy there, which has gone down. That's where I'm sort of leaning now on the issues. Okay, guys, if you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat, and I will try and answer them before we wrap this one up. I'm not going to go super long tonight because we started a little bit later. We went back to the 10 o'clock. Just a quick PSA. The Walksnail Discord is about 4 to 5 users, including myself, with a VTX that won't boot with a green status light and won't flash firmware. Connects okay with USB. Weird. With a VTX that won't boot with a green status LED, won't flash firmware, connects okay with USB. Here's an interesting question. Will it flash firmware without the camera connected? Give it a try. You never know, do you? I'd like to see one. Have I seen any static issues restarting the goggles? No. Interesting. Not with a camera. Have you tried it with another camera? And are they the full-size VTXs or the 1Ss? Have I noticed any? I haven't noticed any static issues. No, nothing specific. The only real issue with the goggles, yours was full size. Interesting. So it's not specific to that one. There has been some weird, but it won't flash firmware. Yeah, the US has been shooting down quite a lot of stuff. Camera works fine on another VTX. Sometimes GPS will mess things up. No, I've not had the goggles restarting due to touching the SMAs. Something sounds off if you're getting that. About Walksnail, I was wondering, could you check what makes the most advanced antennas or the VTX? It's both. It's both. I've done lots of testing. It's the whole unit. You need 2 to 3 inches of separation. Predominantly, it's the VTX. Yeah, grounded does nothing on it. In my tests, the grounding on the VTX did very little at all. You've got to have the GPS 2 to 3 inches away. Cool looking 5-inch frame that suits HDZero Freestyle VTX. I'm not sure there is a frame that suits that VTX. It will fit into many frames, but it isn't the best laid out VTX in the world, simply because to get the antennas at the back, you've got to have the connections off the side. You need a fairly wide frame for the HDZero Freestyle. It needs to be a wide frame, otherwise it just sticks out of the sides. Demibot could be interesting. I haven't tried it, but I'm guessing the Demibot's frame would be quite wide. Chris Ross's frame should be fine, and the AOS series should be absolutely fine. They're fairly wide at the back as well. Yeah, the AOS is definitely wider. Demibot, I think, will be fine. AOS 5 would be fine as well. You do find a lot of the freestyle frames right now have gone very narrow and long. You want a wide frame for that VTX. Yeah, Chris's new frames are real nice. Real nice. And there's plenty of width on the AOSs as well. If anyone hasn't seen. Chris's frames, he does have plenty of space at the back. So the 5, you can see just how wide it is there. And he has the O3 versions now as well. He's got the long ranges. And he has got an O3 version. They are, but does anyone know why he's redesigning a soft mount for the O3 versus what he just released? Yeah, basically, I think as good as Chris's frames are, DJI's vibration system is frankly crap in the O3 Air unit. I have spoken to Chris about this. In fact, that's actually a nice... that's a nice leading. There's a video coming on it this week, and there's no footage in that video, but I am going over the issues. And the very basics are, the O3 gyro is horrifically filtered. And as such, it's picking up stuff that it should never pick up. It is an MPU 6600 gyro. So it's the MPU 6600 is the gyro that's in it. And it's just picking up noise all over the place when even it shouldn't be. And I know Chris said to me that there's filtering DJI could turn on that would help things massively, but they haven't. There's just it's just badly done. That's just the only answer I can really give. Not the gyro, but the setup. The gyro is on the back of the camera. For those who don't know where the gyro is, and I have got a better picture now. The gyro chip on O3, believe it or not, where's it gone? There it is. That gyro sensor is that chip there. That one you can see there in the corner. So there's no isolation, right? They haven't soft mounted it. It's hard mounted in the camera. But that is the gyro chip there. And that is, you know, its isolation is purely part of the camera mounting. The camera has the gyro in it, yes. I've noticed my Mamba F405 chips are all a bit wonky. It happens. Don't worry about it. As long as it's working, don't worry. But yeah, the gyro is in the camera in the O3. Ramdonko, I'll have a look at that. But yeah, so that's where the issue is. So I know Chris did a huge amount of testing, and look, Chris shouldn't have to do any changes, but I think he's doing what he feels is right, which is try to offer something which will also add, and it's nothing to do with Chris's frames, it's the shocking setup. How can that make sense? You can't change the camera angle without a new calibration. You can change, because remember the camera, it doesn't need to do between the two. That's why you don't change the calibration on a GoPro when you tilt it. It doesn't affect it. It doesn't need to know up. No, it doesn't. They could definitely improve the gyro stabilization. Brand new board has the 1 degree yaw thing. But yeah, so, you know, look, DJI setup is not great on this. It's not great. And funny enough, I have a video going live in the next couple of days just talking about all the steps to go through, including, and look, here's the truth. The whole 48 kilohertz thing shouldn't affect this gyro, or the 24 kilohertz thing shouldn't affect this gyro. There's no reason the 24 kilohertz PWM frequency should affect the gyro, but it does. What they should have done is soft mounted that gyro in that camera somehow. Somehow. And irony is, there's actually space. There's actually a bit of space in the back of that camera. I think they could have done it. I think they could have done it. But yeah, that's where the gyro is in the O3 camera, in the module up front. And we talk about that in the video as well. They could have used grommets. Yeah, you could have soft mounted the camera board as well in the housing. Look, you know, O3 is very good. It's just it's causing some issues on vibration. And I updated my my Nazgul's soft mounting as well, and I did that on the video that's going live too. If you don't know, iFlight released silicon mounts for the Nazgul as well. So cool. Right, guys, before we finish this stream up, I just want to say, please do consider giving it a like. There's 163 of you here. I just want to say a massive thank you for all of the time you spent with me tonight, but it would be great to have a like. To everyone who's given a super chat, a massive, massive thank you from me. For those of you who don't know, I do have a Patreon as well. There is a link to it in the description of this video if you want to check it out. A massive thank you to all of the patrons of the channel. You know who you are, and if you want to support us, the link is there too. Anyway, guys, that's it from me. Stay safe. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Hopefully, there might be a bit of proper news by then, and I won't have to make up nonsense about ImmersionRC. But yeah, stay safe, guys. I'll speak to you soon. Button 1, button 2.